Canterbury Earthquake Measures Bill is set down for committee stage forthwith. So I declare the Housing Committee for consideration of the Taxation Canterbury Earthquake Measures Bill. Mr. Chairman.
I'll stay here. Members, the Housing Committee on the Taxation Canterbury Earthquake Measures Bill. Point of order, Joe Goodhue.
Mr. Chair, I seek leave for all provisions to be taken as one question.
Leave is sought for that purpose. Is there any objection? There is no objection. The question then is that parts 1 and 2 and clauses 1 and 2 stand part. The Honourable Clayton Cosgrave.
Mr. Chairman, I note that Mr. Ryle is in the chair, and having no problem with that at all, I would assume, given the non-partisan nature of this piece of legislation, that his officials will have provided him, and he will, in good faith, be able to provide us with some advice on a number of critical questions. Would the Minister be able to indicate if that's going to be a possibility?
I can't see why not.
Thank you, Minister.
That's what you
Excellent, that's wonderful.
It's a good question.
Thank you. That's brilliant. We're glad we've got that on the record. There were issues that a number of colleagues were raising. One particular one that I was raising was in respect to the purposes of the bill, where it creates a taxation exemptions for businesses donating trade stock to people affected by the earthquakes. The simple question, Minister, is this, through the Chair. We have had examples in the first and second reading of large and small-scale businesses that have done just that. Donated in the heat of the moment, or the heat of the quake, as it were, goods and services. What we're seeking is some advice around what sort of technical requirements will be needed to ensure that these businesses meet the requirements of this Act, can gain the exemption, and if there's any unintended consequence, for instance, as a result of the quake, records provision may not have been maintained or may not have been made and adequate records may well not have been put in place that can be retrieved now, or because to be blunt, what businesses did was just gave on request. They didn't seek any assistance in respect of tax liability, and I suspect most of them actually didn't even give it any consideration that there would or wouldn't be a liability. It was simply an act of generosity. Also, the number of people, employees or businesses that may well be affected by this will be able to participate in this. And again, what sort of requirements will be put in place, or requirements will be on them. Thirdly, and more importantly, colleagues have raised the issue that there are a number of legal events. The 4th of September, the 22nd of February, prior to that Boxing Day, and I've tried to find it in the short time we've had. I believe there is a 4th recognised official quake event that happened some weeks ago. But regardless of that, we know there are 3 official events. Only 2 of them are mentioned within the Act itself, are recognised, even though there is a future-proofing provision that allows for future disasters, if you will, or scenarios whereby the Commissioner of Inland Revenue, if the disaster meets the requirements, can activate these provisions in the future, which we think is a very good thing. But there is at least one event, an official earthquake event, which is not recognised in here. My question is, people could be subject to the same difficulties with that unrecognised event and therefore are not catered for in this Act. Is there provision? If it is an oversight, and again we don't say that with any malice, this side of the House would be well prepared to entertain an amendment or facilitate an amendment that would deal with that if it was deemed appropriate. If it has been catered for, we would seek some assurance as to that point. Equally, we'd want to know the level of administration red tape that businesses may or may not have to go through to meet the requirements of this Act, and if a business cannot produce appropriate records because of the nature of the disaster, of stock that was handed out or whatever, is there flexibility within the legislation or within IRD? Is there discretion to deal with that issue, because again, it's one can't think of everything, but it is the unintended consequence that may occur with some businesses or some entities that donated goods or money or services or whatever without any sort of acknowledgement that there may have been a liability, nor any anticipation that Parliament might deal with it to provide some sort of exemption. The other issue was around the promotion, if there is any, and what sort of materials will be provided to businesses and employees and others who may be affected or may be able to take advantage of this to assist them in terms of dealing with the Act when it comes into force. Because, as has been mentioned, there is a large amount of generosity out there. This, I suppose, given that it's Mr Chair, given that it's future-proofed, presumably has the ability actually to facilitate further generosity for future events. And if that was the case, we would support that. So there are a number of questions. I'm sure colleagues will have others. And if the Minister was in a position to provide us with some advice, we would appreciate it.